Alright, so I want to share with you the top 3 things to do when you are sharing your faith with a completely brand new person. Now, this is somebody that you don't know. This is somebody that doesn't know you. You've just kind of walked up to them and you're ready to start sharing your faith about Jesus. So, what I want you to remember is this. They are humans and they want to have spiritual conversations. So remembering those 2 things. The first one is to remember that you have to respect them because they're human beings, which means they don't want to be talked at. They want to be talked with. So conversations are good, okay? So point number 1 is just be normal. Have a conversation. You can start things with the weather. Hey, it's a really nice day out. Wow, how are the Jets doing? If you're from Winnipeg and they're doing well. Or did you see the game the other night? If it's another hockey game, I don't know. There's hockey on, so that's where I'm going. So be human. Have a conversation. Talk with them. Make conversation. Okay? So that's point number 1. They're human. Remember that. Second one is you don't have to be weird when it gets to spiritual topics, and the way you get into that really is just by asking questions. Like I said, people don't like being talked at, so you're like, have you heard of Jesus? Let me tell you about Jesus. Like, I didn't really want to talk about Jesus right now because a lot of people aren't thinking about that right on the spot, but what they are thinking about are spiritual things. So a way to get them into that kind of conversation is really just to open up with really harmless questions about themselves and about what they think. And so a question that you could ask is, so what church do you go to? Which is really harmless because it can only go one of 2 directions. One is say, well, I go to Grace Baptist Church down on Main, something like that. And then you know where they stand in their faith. Or maybe it's like, oh, well, I go to the Latter-day Saints down on, wherever. And so now you know where they stand spiritually if they answer that direction. Chances are, if you're in North America, they're going to say, oh, actually, I don't go to church. And this is what you're looking for. He's like, you live in North America and you don't go to church? That is so interesting. Tell me about that. What happened? And then they just get a chance to open up their story, and they can either say, well, I never thought about it, or they can tell you of a bad experience they had, and it just opens up dialogue for you to steer the direction in a spiritual kind of way. And be spirit contemporary as well. If you've ever heard of Springs Church, they're really good on that message about being spirit contemporary, which means you don't have to use a lot of churchy words. You don't have to start talking about the blood of the Lamb and redemption and salvation, and that's just weird for a lot of people who don't use that kind of language, right? It's like if I were to come up to you and start speaking Spanish and you don't speak Spanish, the conversation is really going to suck for both of us, right? So, again, point number 1 is treat them like they're human. Just have a conversation. Point number 2 is get onto a spiritual topic by asking open-ended questions and non-threatening questions at that. So, an example of a threatening question would be like, so, what do you believe? Right? It's like, oh, why? You want to fight? Like that kind of idea. So, ask open-ended questions and non-threatening questions. And then the third point for kind of sharing your faith in the 21st century and being effective about it is you don't have to prove anything. You don't have to sign anybody up for anything. Just take the pressure out. Jesus talks about agriculture. The Bible talks about agriculture. All throughout the scriptures, sowing and reaping and farming and this and that and trees and fruit. And it's a really picturesque thing. And it's not that he's all that into botany, though I think God is, because look at the vegetation around you. But a good picture we can take from this is if you know, like an apple tree, when the apples are really green and they're not ready to be plucked, and you try to pluck that thing, you will be reefing on that fruit. You're going to be hanging from the apple on the tree. It's not ready to come off. And the more that you struggle and fight with this apple, the more chances you're likely to break the branch completely. But when the fruit is ready, it's nice and red, you can just touch it, just breathe on it. You just look at it and the apple's going to fall off the tree. Right? So you got to recognize the difference between people who are ready to hear the message and people who aren't. And so when you walk into a situation like that where you're going to share your faith with a complete stranger, somebody you don't know, someone who doesn't know you, take the pressure off. You don't have to sign anybody up for anything. You don't have to prove yourself to anything or anybody. You don't have to be a super theologian and impress anyone. All you're doing right now is you're starting a conversation. You're asking open-ended, non-threatening questions, and the pressure's off. If you remember those 3 things, I guarantee you, you're going to have so many fantastic conversations, and chances are, more often than not, you're going to run into people who really enjoy these conversations, because deep down inside, we all have these spiritual questions, and it's because we've been made in the image of God. We can't help it, and you actually have to be taught to be an atheist, either through bad experiences or bad philosophy or things like that. Right from the get-go, generally speaking, people have this on their mind, and so they're interesting conversations to have. That's why you see all these, that's why ghost movies are super popular, and these, psychic TV shows, everyone watches them, and people think they're kind of dumb, but they're super intrigued by it, because we are spiritual beings, and we love that side of creation. And so, check it out, try them out. I guarantee you're gonna have a good experience. And again, just remember, treat them like a human. Just have a normal conversation. Ask open-ended, non-threatening questions to get them onto spiritual topics, and take all the pressure off of them and off of yourself. And if you do those 3 things, you're going to be able to share your faith in the 21st century with success, and it's going to be a great time. Go ahead, post on this video below. Let me know what your thoughts are. If you have some other additions to that, or even if you've gone out and done it, how it went. I want to hear about that. All right? Brian James out.